पुतला ये सब पिघल गए पहुंचाए दिस कलकत्ता घेरक भीतर बंद करी सब टेक के बैठे मत्था अरे कौन जाल में फंसे आए अब दया करो भगवनवा हो का हलवा सुन लो फीजी बासिया
14th May is very significant for all Fiji Indians. For the present generation, it reminds them of Colonel Sitiveni Rambuka and the coup of 1987. But for Girmiteers like Lalta, Benny Singh, Bipti, Badlu, Asgar, Ulfat, Bhole and Fakir Baks, this day in 1879 was more significant.
On this day in 1879, the ship Leonidas carried these 8 and 455 other Indian Girmiteers to the Fijian shores from India for the first time. The Fiji Times dated May 17, 1879 reported that cholera had been on board together with smallpox and that 11 coolies had died of cholera and 6 of dysentery. The British in those days referred to all Indians as coolies. The coolies on board the Leonidas were the first to sample hospitality of their unknown masters in the new land. They were to serve their Girmit or indenture, which was a work contract lasting a minimum of 5 years. These brave men, women and children were thrown in the deep end. They were expected to adjust and adapt to anything and everything imaginable to you and me. It was a totally new and frightening experience. कोई आया झगड़ा करके कोई देखन चला तमाशा गली बीच मिल गए यार काठी खूब लगा इस झांसा अरे कोई आया झगड़ा करके कोई देखन चला तमाशा गली बीच मिल गए यार काठी खूब लगा इस झांसा अरे चाहो नौकरी चलो साथ में फीजी में धरा खजनवा हो कहनवा सुन लो फीजी बासिया यार फीजी दीप लागेला सोहनवा कहनवा ऐसे पुनरासिया यार फीजी दीप लागेला सोहनवा कहनवा सुन लो फीजी बासिया These men and women followed in one of the 87 ships with a total of 62,837 Girmiteers. Girmit ended in 1916 with the last ship, Sutlej 5, which arrived on 11th of November 1916. This was a human labour trade between Fiji and India, which spanned for more than 40 years.
According to Professor Brijlal's most recent book, Chalo Jahaji, Girmit started in 1834 with the first lot of Girmiteers. The first lot were destined for Mauritius. This was followed by British Guiana, Trinidad, Jamaica, Mauritius, St. Lucia, Natal, St. Kitts, St. Vincent's, Reunion, Suriname, Fiji, East Africa, and Seychelles. Mauritius, British Guiana, Natal, and Trinidad were the top 4 indentured labor importing colonies. Interestingly, of the 1,166,157 indentured laborers who left India, only 60,965, or 5.2%, went to Fiji.
अरे वही आवाज की इन फीजी को गारिल खून पसनवा हो कहनवा सुन लो फीजी मासिया पाट दिस कोठी कोठी तब सरदार दिखा.
The journey from India to Fiji took up to a month. They witnessed many sunrises and sunsets over the ocean. For these brave young men and women who had probably never seen the ocean, nor left the boundaries of their villages, this must have been a terrifying ride. The changing face of the ocean was probably as frightening to these Girmiteers as their colonial carers. As each day passed, they must have wondered what would tomorrow bring. Probably the sight of friendly dolphins momentarily eased their suffering and uncertainty.
अरे चला जहार छुटा कलकत्ता 14 सदी का पर सागर समुद्र मैया दई हलकोरे ऊपर असगर जय है बादर.
Was indeed tough, but it developed a new bond between the passengers. Caste, religion, and race was of little significance. They were Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Tamils, and others. But on the ship, they were all Jahaji, or co-passenger in a ship. The Jahaji spirit, developed through goodwill, endurance, and common suffering, prevailed amongst many of the Girmiteers for most of their lives.
But what was the connection between Fiji, India, and Britain? The answer is simple. Fiji became a British colony in 1874. An Australian firm, Colonial Sugar Refinery Company Limited, which had been in operation for more than 40 years in other British colonies, began its operations in Fiji in the late 1870s.
The success of sugarcane plantations was one of the ways in which the colonial powers could make this new colony self-supporting. Fiji's second governor, Sir Arthur Gordon, who had previously served in Trinidad and Mauritius, had two major problems. First, a dwindling supply of plantation workers, and second, he had to preserve a native policy which safeguarded Fijians from labor lines. India had an endless supply of cheap and reliable labor. At the time, India was also a British colony. So the governor's desire was quickly transformed into reality.
Recruiters were organized in various parts of India to engage potential workers. According to Professor Bridge Lal's research, of the 45,439 Calcutta embarked migrants, 34,388, or 76%, came from Oudh and Northwest provinces. This was followed by Bihar, Central provinces, the Punjab, Rajasthan, Nepal, Bengal, and Madras. Interestingly, about 2% came from overseas colonies.
और 5 बरस तक गिरमिट का जब फीजी को शहर बनाए माई बाप से सुनी कहानी गंगा.
A lot has been said and written about the recruitment process. All sorts of stories can be recalled by the present descendants of these labourers on how their forefathers were brainwashed into leaving their homeland. Recruiters who were Indians used all sorts of techniques to convince potential clients to sign up. Their unreliable role in this sign-up process earned them the title of Arkatis.
अरे फीजी दीप लागेला सोहनवा हो कहनवा सुन ले फीजी बातिया. अरे वही आवाज की इन फीजी को गारिन खून पसनवा हो कहनवा सुन लो फीजी बातिया.
K.A. Gilliam's book, titled The Fiji Indians, published in 1962, described the recruitment process as follows.
It is the ordinary villager's cupidity which is the lever most frequently used. If he is the stupid, ignorant type, then Fiji is referred to as a district near Calcutta, where high wages are paid. If the villager is of the more intelligent type, then full details of indenture are revealed. But the work is made out to be very light indeed, and the most glowing prospects are offered. Nothing is said about the penal laws or the hard condition of penal labour.
While some were fooled into a trap, others were truly in search of work. The village scene in India offered little in terms of prosperity and guarantee of a regular income. There were perhaps little hope not only for themselves but for their future generations as well. So Fiji, wherever it was probably the best option.
Their decision to walk into the unknown must have been a painful experience not only to themselves but also to their relatives and village friends. Their departure from their villages must have caused real distress. Let's put ourselves their loved ones in their position, leaving loved ones behind and heading into the unknown.
Once the Girmiteers got to their respective departure points, like Calcutta, they were issued with immigration passes. There was a clear distinction between a man's and a woman's passes.
A thumbprint was another distinguishing feature. Most of the Girmiteers were illiterates, and this was the only way to confirm the acceptance of the Girmit or 5-year contract. There were other details about the Girmiteer, such as particulars of his or her registration, their name, father's name, age, caste, name of next of kin, district, thana, village, mohalla, body marks, occupation in India, height, and so on.
Various other signatures followed. There was a signature by the depot doctor, which was countersigned by the surgeon superintendent. This confirmed a person's fitness. There was a signature by the government immigration agent for Fiji, who claimed that he explained all matters concerning their engagement in Fiji. How were the translations done is anyone's guess. Finally, another signature by the protector of immigrants confirmed the Girmiteers' fitness to undertake the voyage.
5 बरस तक गिरमिट का जब फीजी को शहर बनाए माई बाप से सुनी कहानी गंगा भजन बनाए.
Prior to their assignment to a plantation in Fiji, they were quarantined at Nukalau, which is an island off the coast of the city of Suva. In each area there were numerous plantations with various numbers of workers. In the Batavua area, plantations at Rarawai, Tavua, Baroko, Bisaru had most workers. In the Lotoka-Nandi area, plantations at Lotoka, Lovu, Drasa, Saweni had most workers. In Maduata, Lambasa had by far the most workers. In the Kondrove, Vuna and Selyalevu plantations had most workers. In Navua, Tamanua and Lobu were two of the larger plantations. A very small number of workers in Suva were assigned to Lami, the Works Department, the Cemetery and Nasinu. In the Lau group, Mango Island had most workers. In the Nandronga area, plantations at Kavanangsau, Naindovi, Vaivandravandra and Lomoai had most workers. In the Rekireki area, the plantation at Penang was the largest. In the Lomai Viti group, the largest number of Indian indentured labourers were assigned to Makungai Island. The Rewa area had the largest number of plantations. However, the three largest were situated in Nosori, Naitasiri and Baulevu.
अरे चला जहार छुटा कलकत्ता 14 सदीक पर सागर समुधा मैया दई हलकोरे ऊपर असगर जय है बादर अरे चला जहाज छुटा कलकत्ता 14 सदीक पर सागर समुधा मैया दई हलकोरे ऊपर असगर जय है बादर.
Once the Girmiteers arrived at their respective plantations, they were assigned to their poorly ventilated single-room home in a coolie lane with some basic necessities. For the early Girmiteers, this one-room unit was their bedroom, living room and kitchen all in one for up to 4 people. This multi-purpose shelter measured no more than 10 feet by 7 feet. In today's terms, it was no larger than the smallest bedroom or laundry in our homes. अरे लाए उतार दिस टापू में बाट दिस कोठी कोठी तब सरदार दिखाई से हमका बहुत रही कोठरी छोटी अरे लाए उतार दिस टापू में अरे बाट.
The form of agreement for intending emigrants outlined their girmit or condition of indenture. Girmiteers were assigned to duties involving cultivation or manufacture of products. They were to work for 5.5 days a week, with Sundays and holidays being free. They were paid at the rate of 1 shilling or 12 pennies for men and 9 pennies for women. They had a choice of time work, which comprised of a 9-hour day, or task work, which involved finishing a task with no time constraints. Life on the plantation has often been described as a harrowing experience.
बजे से ठुके कवाड़ी जो न उठे पावे गारी नाफा फाटे लोही लागे कांधे पे धरे कुदारी अरे रोवत गावत चले खेत में हाथ में लिए भोजनवा हो कहनवा सुन लो फीजी बांधिया यारे फीजी दीप लागे ला सोहनवा हो कहनवा सुन लो फीजी बांधिया
As the sun set in one direction, the evening probably brought momentary relief, together with time to reflect and dream about those back home.
But where there's life, there's hope. Most Girmiteers never gave up. For a small percentage, the experience was far too intense, and sadly they committed suicide. Some lost their lives through illnesses such as TB and accidents. Through their leaders such as Totaram Sanadhya, They expressed their feelings to people back home. Letters were even written to Mahatma Gandhi, and one of his replies in Totaram Sanadia's book, My 21 Years in Fiji, was as follows.
I received your letter, hearing the sad story of Hindustani brothers. There I am sorrowful. There is no chance of sending a barrister from here. No one suitable to send is available. You should send to me whatever news you wish. I will send word of it to the other countries. I will always think about the difficulties of the steamer. For all those things in Fiji, there should be a nationally minded person, well read in English. If one comes to mind, I will send him. I will wait for your next letter. Yours sincerely, Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi.
Whatever the grievances and difficulties, life had to go on. The colonial powers and early entrepreneurs tried everything in this new colony. Indentured labor was used on rubber plantations. Indentured labor was used in all aspects of the sugar industry. This involved planting, harvesting and milling cane. It also involved transporting it on horse-drawn carts and boats to sugar mills. If sugarcane plantations could speak, they'd probably tell the full story. They were involved in the construction of railroads, as shown in this picture, which was taken somewhere in Nandronga. An overseer, or Kulumbar, is looking on as many Girmiteers take on the task with their bare hands and other primitive tools. Some of our ancestors worked on other types of plantations and factories.
Despite all the adversities and hardships, our ancestors never gave up. They probably had one goal in mind, and that was to succeed, irrespective of their conditions. After their Girmit, those who chose to call Fiji home moved on from their small rooms in the coolie lanes to small homes on farms. They set their own routines and moved on with their lives. The impact that the first settlers had made in the new homeland is best summed up by the following entry, which was made by a government official in 1898.
I was struck by the signs of industry of the free Indian settlers. In fact, it is not possible to travel up the river without noticing on either bank evidences of aptitude, push and perseverance of the free Indian with his stores, farms and smiling plantations. The free Indians were accommodated on CSR estates, which was subdivided into small farms. The company depended heavily on these farmers for the supply of sugarcane to its mills.
ये गन्ने की